the weekend before she got here, I was literally like, oh, remind me, I need to shower today.
What?
And I just like forgot.
To
And then
shower?
she like got here, like, oh yeah, I was supposed to do that.
To
But I
shower?
like went Monday to Wednesday.
Hi, welcome to Adulthood Pending Podcast. I'm Kimmy.
I'm Brittanee.
And I'm Annalise.
We're a podcast for college students, recent graduates, or anyone who's also figuring out that being an adult isn't as simple as it's made out to be. Join us each episode as we share how we're navigating our careers, post-grad lives, and the whole adulting experience.
So today's episode, we have a special guest, my boyfriend, Nathan. So Nathan, if you'd like to introduce yourself and tell everyone where you are on your adulthood journey.
Sure. I'm Nathan. I'm Brittany's boyfriend. I graduated from Pomona College in 2019. I'm currently out in Wisconsin working for Epic Healthcare Systems. I'm a TS, technical services engineer. And so I generally just help healthcare systems with their software upgrading and addressing any issues that they might have. I think as far as like being an adult, I don't really feel much different from college. I feel like I was fairly independent in college, but yeah, I think it's still kind of a growth phase and it's a process in coming into adulthood still.
So in our last episode of relationships, I kind of talked about my perspective, but we didn't have Nathan on to kind of share his side of the story. So we decided to bring him on and talk more about relationships. So like always, we're going to start off with a fun question. And the question for this episode is, what is your ideal date? So if our guest wants to start first.
Sure. I think something would be really fun without any budget or COVID restraints. I think like learning something together would be really fun, or just something that we haven't done before. Like that's really thrilling. I think something that came to
Taxidermy?
mind. Yes, taxidermy. Yeah.
Go to a class on taxidermy?
I think that'd be really cool, stuffing animals. But also I think like something crazy like hang gliding that you wouldn't normally do. But you get to learn and share that with each other. That I think that sounds really fun.
What about you, Britt?
I think along the same lines, I kind of mentioned in my last episode
I had a feeling you were going to say this.
how much I really want a ballroom dance.
I knew it.
Oh, yeah.
Like so badly.
Really?
So that would be my ideal date, I suppose.
Is it specific ballroom? Like, would you post to salsa or something else?
Isn't salsa ballroom? Whatever
it's
the
like a
Dancing with the
type.
Stars dances they learn.
They do
I think it's
multiple.
a form of ballroom dancing.
Like what? Like waltz? What's that?
I think there's like
Ballroom.
there's a lot of different forms of it. I think salsa is one.
Yeah, tango, cha-cha.
Yeah.
Yeah. How about you, Kimmy?
Okay, my like dream date. This is probably my dream date. This is probably after like dating for a while. It's like kind of a lot of money. So my dream date is like very California. Like you would start the morning.
Oh, she's going to give us a
like
whole agenda. All right.
start the morning going like skiing or snowboarding, whatever, in the mountains. And then you would drive down the hill. And then you would end at the beach and have like a picnic during sunset.
Oh,
That's my ideal date.
that's cute.
Yeah, but obviously that's a huge investment. So you have to do that with someone you really like.
My dream date is I enjoy museums. I feel like that'd be fun to go on a date with someone with. And then also cooking. Either like cooking together or going to a cooking class would be fun. Because you get to eat food.
Well, I'm excited for post-COVID when we can all hopefully do these things with people.
In episode 3, Brittany talked about how she met Nathan and her side of the story. But Nathan, what's your side of that story of how you two met and started dating?
Yeah. So we met the summer after sophomore year at a conference or retreat with our campus ministry groups, SummerCon, and we were on Catalina Island, and we were both in the same Bible study for that week, and we just kind of talked to each other a little bit, got to know each other, and then after that summer, I was becoming an AMP mentor, and she was the head sponsor for Script. And so we did mixers with the different groups and saw each other a few more times through training and stuff. And then after training, we decided to go to church together in the mornings on Sunday. We were going super early because I don't remember if it was me that decided to go early or Brittany.
It's definitely you. You were like, I have stuff to do.
I was working. So we had to go super early. So we'd go and grab brunch and everything. And we did that for probably the better part of a semester, maybe a whole semester. And then
Is that true, Brittany?
I don't know. I mean, I think it was at least a full semester.
It was at least one semester.
Yeah.
And then I think we didn't. Yeah, from there, second semester, we kind of like fell off of that. And
why?
Yeah, why?
Part of it was like waking up that early was tough. But also at the time, like, yeah, I think as far as going to church, for me, it was just like, oh, I'm not waking up that early at like 7 a.m. on Sundays. And so that was the main reason for me. And then really, we just kind of like hung out sporadically throughout junior year into senior year. And yeah, we ended up starting to date March 22nd.
Whoa.
Oh,
exact date
pulls
given.
out the date.
At least officially. We had gone on what I would call a few dates. We disagree on which date was our first date, quote unquote, but yeah, so we data matched senior year, and then so yeah, that kind of at least kicked off us seeing each other some more, and then yeah, we ended up deciding to date.
Nice. So just to clarify a few things, Nathan mentioned that he was a part of AMP, which is Pomona College's Asian mentorship program. And then as Britt has mentioned before, she was also part of the Scripps Asian sponsor program. So I guess that's how you two got to meet a little more. And then as discussed in the third episode, Data Match was the program that our school does, which is like a
it wasn't really like a program. It was more like I think some students got together and created some kind of like app for people to like find matches, and it was around the time of Valentine's Day. And it was basically like you answer questions and then they use some kind of algorithm to like pair you with someone based on your answers. But
yeah, I got up at 6 something in the morning on Sundays to drive to church with him. He didn't catch on that I liked him. Like, what?
I honestly thought we were just going to church.
Oh my gosh.
At 7 in the morning.
Well, okay, throughout this whole time, did you ever like think, or were you ever interested in Brittany throughout this whole time? Or not until I guess like Data Match, where it was like, oh, this algorithm told us that we were compatible.
Yeah. So yeah, I think while we were going to church, I did have some interest. And that was something that was there, but I wasn't really sure. Well, I kind of knew that she had a crush on me, and this was something I actually did talk to with my friends about some. But I ended up like being in a relationship with someone else at that time. And so it just didn't pan out at the time during junior year that we would end up together.
So then what happened afterwards with data match? Like, what was, I guess, like the driving force? Like, okay, well, let's date.
Me.
Oh, well, like, well, that was a big part. But honestly, data match was kind of just like a big meme. Like,
No one really.
Brittanee was literally the only person on my data match that I personally knew. So I was like, haha, like, I don't have anything to do on Valentine's Day. Do you want to do something? And we just like grabbed dinner. But she had something else that day, I believe.
Yeah.
So we ended up getting dinner at a dining hall just as friends the week after or something. And then that kind of went into grabbing boba another time and a little bit more.
Okay, that's so funny because Nathan was like, oh, it's such a meme. Meanwhile, I feel like when you two matched, Britt was like, oh my gosh, we matched. And like,
but I think okay,
feelings, you know?
Brittany, you can like obviously jump in here, but I feel like
yeah.
she was like that because it was like someone that she actually knew and had feelings for before.
Yeah.
You know, so it was like that kind of combined with just like her old feelings was just like what caused her to react in that way. I think it was like anyone else, she would have been like, oh, this is ridiculous.
Day. Right? That's like, oh, sign. But Nathan was like, no.
No, I think like when I first got it, and then he reached out to me, I was like, I was like kind of like, oh no, I don't really want to deal with this right now. Like I wasn't really enthusiastic about it. And then we got dinner, and then I was kind of like, I'm not sure how I feel again. Especially because at that point I didn't like you. So yeah.
She always says this. I don't believe it for a second though. Like, nah, that's
no. At least
possible.
back me up.
Back me up.
So next question. No, but I actually have like a theory where second semester of senior year, a lot of people do end up like getting together because in my mind they're like, oh, it's like a last opportunity, might as well just go for it. That's kind of this theory I have, and it applies to both high school and college.
Oh,
from what I've seen.
interesting.
But so you both mentioned that you two went to summer together. So what is it like dating someone that holds the same religious beliefs as you? And I guess like how big of a role does your religion play in your relationship, your specific relationship?
So I think for me, like a big part of it has to do with like family also like being okay. While like I think with past relationships, it was kind of like whether they shared my religious beliefs or not, like I was okay with it, but I think it generated a lot of concern with family members. And that was kind of something that even if it was like not a big deal to me, it was kind of in the back of my head. But I would say I think it's very nice that we do share that. It's another thing that we have in common and have something that we regularly do together is just since COVID is watching church together. Whereas normally we would kind of be doing our own church things. But I think it's like it was something that I like was super important to me growing up. So it was kind of like a bridge at least for initially getting to know each other, and like I said, we really got to know each other going to church in the morning together. So yeah.
Wait, so it's like that's something that you looked for in people, or if like say you were to date or become interested in someone, would like them being a different religion be something you kind of like maybe you didn't take it as seriously after?
I would say that like it wasn't necessarily something I was looking for in particular. I would say that like if I dated girls who were not Christian, and I don't think I really had a problem with that, and that really wasn't an issue. And yeah, I think it's something that's nice to share. I don't think it was something that was necessary for me, at least.
Yeah, I think it's kind of similar for me. Like, it definitely makes the transition to them being a bigger part of my life and like being involved with my family and stuff a little easier. But it's not necessarily like I didn't seek out strictly someone that was Christian. Like, I think probably like when we first started dating, it was probably on the lower side of things that like made me want to date Nathan. So yeah, but I think it is like really convenient because of course religion is such a like intimate part of people's lives, and it's kind of hard for people that don't share that. Like, I don't know. I don't know how I would explain like how important religion is to me to someone else. Like, I don't know. I feel like I'd be kind of embarrassed by it, but what do you two think?
Yeah, well, I feel similarly to you too. Like, I'm not really religious, but I was raised Catholic, but my family's not really that Catholic. And same with Eric, like he was also raised very Catholic, and then he also doesn't consider himself to be very religious. And that was one of the first things that we actually happened to talk about on our first date within like, I don't know, maybe the first 15 minutes. And I was like, whoa, that's like interesting because I feel like growing up in a community that is pretty heavily like, I don't know, conservative, even though diverse and religious, it was cool to meet someone else who had the same perspective that I did. And I like understand what you're saying, Britt, where you don't want to be with someone who like doesn't necessarily understand things or where you have to explain things, because just like how I want to be with someone who shares those same values, I don't want to be with someone and then like feel like I'm holding them back in any way by not understanding them and like not being able to attend those things for them when they would need me there.
Yeah. So I grew up in a Buddhist household. Both my parents are Buddhist, but it wasn't really something that we practiced a lot growing up. Like we would go to the temples on like major holidays and stuff like that. But at least in the States, I would say like Buddhism isn't, a lot of people aren't really Buddhists, or like at least the people that I know. So it's hard for me to like find someone who shares that background as I do. So yeah, I mean, I think it would be nice to have someone who has like a similar belief or like similar background as me. But again, like it's not really something that I very strongly grew up practicing. It was just kind of like, oh, this is like, we lived in like a Buddhist household. So in that sense, like, I guess it is kind of hard for me to understand like how big religion plays in people's lives. But like that said, I'm not gonna like, what is that word? I'm not gonna brush it off. Like I acknowledge that a lot of people do. Like it is a huge part of people's lives, and so I'm like, okay, like, but for me personally, I just don't have that experience, so I can't fully relate. That said, me and one of my exes, he wasn't Buddhist. He was Christian. I was Buddhist. So I think like it was definitely in the back of my mind where I was like, okay, I don't know if his parents are okay with me not being Christian, if he's like fully okay with me not being Christian either. So like that definitely was in the back of my mind, and it was definitely in the back of his mind too as well. He's like he had brought it up a couple of times before. But I had told him that like I knew how important it was to him, so like I was willing to like learn and try to at least understand it. But I think there is a difference in like trying to learn versus like growing up with it, you know? Like there are just certain things that I don't think I could fully understand, and that's no one's fault really. But yeah, I mean, that's just kind of my experience.
So on the topic of identity, Nathan is Chinese and Britt, you're Japanese Filipino. So even though you're both like of East Asian descent, I was wondering what that looks like in your relationship, like having these different backgrounds.
So like I think we haven't had a lot of like dramatic learning curves, I guess. I guess really the things that really stick out to me are like, because I think the big thing that we like both love and share about our cultures a lot is like food. And I think both of us are like very down to eat whatever. Like I love Filipino food, I love Japanese food, and it's just like very like that. There's not really conflict or anything there. But I think parts that we've seen like like we're a little different is like Brittanee came to South Carolina with me for the first time and like spent time with my parents, my sister, my brother, and like my parents would just on instinct just like speak Chinese to her, and like
Oh,
obviously she's not going to pick up any of that. And like it was definitely just like, oh, like it was like a learning curve for them to realize like, oh, we like using Chinese at home all the time is like a little bit, not everyone's gonna understand. So that was one thing. And she also like met my grandparents who also like basically only speak Chinese. So it was very interesting, like them talking through me to her. But yeah, and I think like there's small things like we recently talked about this actually, is like I have a like deep-seated love for dumplings.
Oh my
Like
gosh, I knew you were
I
gonna
can
bring
eat
that up.
dumplings and it's like I'm just happier. But like Brittany's not the same way. And I like it's something that's like very difficult to understand for me because I'm like, but they're dumplings.
Wait, Nathan, can I ask what your favorite dumplings are?
Oh, I like make these pork and chive dumplings and I add some shrimp in there, and some
do you
like
do you
toasted
steam
sesame
them
oil.
or do you pan fry them?
So I don't have a
Sorry.
steamer here. I don't have a steamer here, but normally we would steam them or boil them. Here I just boil them. Usually at home we'll do like a mix, so we'll like pan fry half of them while the other ones are steaming. But yeah, dumplings. That was one thing that came up recently that I was like,
Very specific thing.
we don't understand each other quite fully.
I'm not
Okay.
quite there.
To be fair, I do like dumplings, but like I don't crave it intensely like how Nathan craves it, and he just like looks forward to it, and I'll just like make his day. And I'm like, yeah, it's good, but like I don't know, like his sister was like, you know, when you just bite in that meaty like and the dough, it's just like I crave it all the time, and I'm like, I don't understand that. But I do like dumplings. Yeah, but for
That's
me for me, I think also because of growing up in a mixed ethnic background, I never expected to like date someone that was exactly the same background as me. And also, like I said before, I think it really made me open to the idea of dating someone who like doesn't understand 100% like everything, how it feels like to grow up in a Japanese or like a Filipino household. So I think that's something that didn't particularly have a factor in when I was chose to date someone that wasn't the exact same ethnic background as I am.
I feel like I'm kind of the same too, though. Like it's kind of like it's like a nice to have in a way, but it's not like a requirement. And the same that it was like for me and my religious background. I think like a lot of things would be a lot easier, like communication and like introducing to the family because of the language and like just culture. It's definitely like I think it would be really, really nice, but yeah.
Yeah, I feel like I'm the same as Annalise, and also just like Britt coming from mixed background. Like I also didn't expect to find someone that had the same background as me, but like Eric and I, we do share some similarities in our culture. So I think that has been very helpful. But yeah, I think like as long as you're with someone who has some sort of understanding or wants to understand, then like that's the most ideal situation. As Britt mentioned in episode 3, you two got together at the end of your senior year on March 22nd, we recently learned, and then you graduated and you were apart for a long time. And you've been doing this long distance relationship for a while now. So I would just be curious to learn, like, what has that been like, especially not having some sort of like end date, you know, when you will be together forever. type of thing?
Yeah, I mean, I think like long distance at first was really hard. I think like the first few months, maybe even like going into the first half year might have been like the roughest part of it. Because basically right after graduating, for basically a full month, I was on like a road trip with friends and we were camping a lot and whatever, and I just straight up didn't have phone access a lot of times.
Oh, wow.
So like we really didn't talk a lot right after graduating, and so having dated for like really 2 months and then going basically a full month without talking a lot, that
Oh
was
my
like
gosh.
really interesting. And then also like going into our first half year, we were still kind of like learning how like what needs each of us had, and like our needs for communication and how we like to communicate. And I think with time difference, that was also really hard because like Brittany was working really late, I was working a lot, and it was just really hard to find time where we could have like quality like communication, because like usually when we were talking at like either it was really early for her or it was really late for me. So it's just like we were just super tired, and like at first we were kind of calling like 2 to 3 times a week. And so we like really wanted to make that time count and like really talk a lot, but a lot of times it was just like, oh my god, I'm about to pass out. And oh yeah, and also like right when I moved to Madison, it was really hard because I was like, it was pre-COVID, so I was used to the schedule of like waking up early, going to work out, going to work, going back to the gym, and like it was also like weird because I was on a cut at the time, so I was like really lowering calories, so I was just like irritable, tired, and so every time me and Brittany called, it was really coin flippy how it was going to go.
Oh boy.
But I think we kind of like figured out that it was better for us if we just like tried to call every night, even if it was just for a short while. And also like having better schedules has helped a lot. COVID, obviously, like our schedules are a little bit more flexible, even if we're working the same. Like, I can kind of, if I need to get off work real quick, I can get off work, chat, and then go back to working or whatever. The long distance has been like, I think we've like, she's with me now for like the next couple of months, but even like before she came, I think we were kind of like making it work a lot better. And I don't think that like there's a lot of issues with it, but like now we don't have to really deal with that for at least the foreseeable future, or for at least this time being. So yeah.
Yeah, I think like, well, you said, Nathan, that the first few months were rough. I think the roughest time we had was like about a year and a half after, or no, a little under a year and a half into dating, when I was like applying and taking my MCAT and stuff. We were like arguing so much, and I think a lot of that was rooted in yeah, like we said, like just not really meeting each other's needs. Like Nathan, well, also a big part of that was I was stressed out of my mind, and so I depended on him a lot to like fulfill that last bit of like happiness and fulfillment in life. And obviously like that's unfair to him, and I didn't necessarily communicate that with him. And so there were times where I would just like pick at him because I was like annoyed that he wasn't doing every little thing like I needed him to do, but at the same time I wasn't communicating that super well. So yeah, I think that was kind of, and then the months after that also, each little thing that he wouldn't, even if I wasn't super stressed, or if I was like okay, but maybe he forgot to do like say goodnight, or I don't know, just do something to go out of his way to, show affection for me, I would automatically blow that up and kind of just go back to that period of time when we were fighting a little more consistently, and yeah, just kind of bring it back to that original need of like, you're not trying enough, you don't care enough about me, blah 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 blah. But yeah, the months since then have gotten a little better because we changed how we communicate more regularly, and yeah, it's been working pretty well, even though I'm here right now.
So I guess like obviously long distance is hard, like you're away from your partner for so long, you can't really see them, and time difference adds onto like an extra layer. But I feel like just in general, long distance is for a lot of people like the make or break deal situation. So how, I guess, then did you two overcome those times where you were constantly arguing? And you said that you changed your communication style, but how did that happen? And how did you two kind of make it work?
I think this is like a difficult thing to answer, because I like, at least on my end, how I felt about it was like my thought process is kind of like, yeah, like we're fighting, and like since we're long distance, it's like, I mean, at any point in any relationship, the way I think about it is like you can either like stay together or break up, and it's like and it really comes down to like what you want, because or there are obviously circumstances that like people have to like separate or
for sure,
whatever, that are not able to overcome. But like I think at least for our situation, like I think for me is like, as long as I want to keep trying and Brittanee wants to keep trying to like make it work, we can make it work. And I think like even when we had fights, it was kind of like, I don't think that this fight is big enough that we can just like give up on it. And like I don't think that we really ever had anything that was like, there's no way we can make this work. And yeah, I think like we compromise, and we like, at the end of the day, it's like, for me at least, I'm like, I will do what will make me happy at time now. So like I just never thought that like, I really don't never thought that like breaking up would make me happy at any point in time, like even if we were fighting or in the rough spot.
Yeah, I think for me it was like, well, first of all, it was obviously understanding communication. Like when I'm saying we fought a lot because he wasn't like affectionate enough, was he would just, I mean, long distance, a big part of that communication is like texting, and so I would be like, well, how are your day, blah blah blah, and he'd be like, good, doing good. And I'm just like, what is this? I need more substance. And so understanding that like, okay, that's just how he communicates,
right.
And also, like I said before, kind of just understanding myself, like, am I picking on him because I had a bad day and I'm just looking for him to like make up that rest of the day, or is he actually like not listening to me and not taking my feelings into consideration? And yeah, so a lot of the times it was the former. So I think after that, and also a lot of our problems were rooted in being long distance and just not kind of meeting the needs of others because we're like separate. And so I think knowing that being long distance was kind of temporary kind of made things easier when we're like, okay, this is a rough patch, but like it's all kind of boiling down to the same thing.
Right. Kimi, I know you also kind of touched on this topic in our previous episode on relationships, but how, I guess, has been your experience with long distance? Because I guess right now everything's still kind of up in the air, you with applying your jobs and everything. And Eric also applying to jobs, like, yeah, like what does your future look like, I guess, in terms of being long distance or not? And how have you coped with long distance in this current time?
Yeah. So I would say that like COVID is a very different time to do long distance than other times, just because I am very like, I'm like a huge planner. So if we're gonna do long distance, that's fine. But like, I do want to know when I'm going to see the person next. And during COVID, it's like so dependent on when the numbers are going to be lower, when it's going to be safe, especially because we do live pretty far away where we would have to get on a plane to see each other.
Right.
So I would say like we've done long distance now for a while, mainly because of COVID and like just us living in different places. Um, but yeah, I think it's okay. I just think like now that we've been together for a little over 2 years, like I'm hoping that we will be able to live together for like a year in the near future. Just because it has been hard, not necessarily in like we communicate really well and like we hang out a lot, but just not having that constant interaction, especially during a time like now when you communicate with no one else. Yeah, I think it would be ideal to like be together for a little while.
Yeah, I think like it's definitely been very different having Brittanee around, and like not even like I think she's been here for like 2 weeks now, and this isn't
1 week. A week and a half.
no, it's been a I guess yeah, you came in on a Wednesday.
It's been here a
So
month.
So it's been like almost 2 weeks, a week and a half, 2 weeks, and it's like it's very different knowing that like this isn't even the longest she stayed here, but I'm like, oh, I don't have to worry about her like leaving like
Yeah.
next Wednesday and being like, well, crap, like this is going to be rough again. And it's like I think it like makes us a lot, even like when she would visit before, it's like it while like I'm very happy that she's here and everything, it's like we really try to just like squeeze every second out of it.
Yeah.
And that can be like very taxing and tiring. Like really trying to squeeze everything out of limited time. Because like there are times where she would come over for like 3 or 4 days even, and it'd be
Pre-COVID.
just
Yeah.
it was like super short. But yeah, I think
Yeah.
like being together in the same space consistently, and like
Right.
I don't even have to go to like into the office now, so like we're actually together 24/7. It like is a very different part of our relationship that we really didn't have even in college. Like really during the day we didn't see each other that much because like we had classes, we were both doing our mentorship programs and stuff like that. So yeah, it's been very different, and it's like being together in the same place has been really nice.
Yeah. So I guess kind of on that note, what is it like being together 24/7? And just like, because I guess it is also your first time being together all the time where there is for like an unforeseeable amount of time, right? So how has that been like? I mean, it's only been a week and a half, so hopefully things are still good. But how has that experience been like so far?
I mean, I think it's been nice. Like I think like okay, honestly, there are a lot of things that I just like wouldn't do regularly if Brittany wasn't here. Like for one thing, I like while I enjoy cooking and I do cook sometimes, like Brittany being here is like we can cook together. And it's like, oh, I don't have to just like do this alone and stand in my like almost hospital like kitchen, empty apartment, and just like cooking on my own in silence. So that's been really nice. Like there are a lot of things that even if I could do alone, I'm able to do with someone else. And like I have a roommate, but like his hours are like 3 to midnight, so we have very different hours. And so like yeah, it's very different having someone there that we can like be together. And like I do also like talk to people a lot because I spend a lot of time playing video games with friends and stuff. But like it's also different like being physically there with someone. And it's like like when I unplug from everything else, like I still like have someone there for me. And like, yeah, I think it's, I don't foresee any real issues with like being together a lot. Like I can't really imagine anything that would like any pet peeves really, for me at least. So
Wish I could say the same.
yeah, I know.
Just kidding.
You got your list.
Yeah, I guess since I've only been here a week and a half this time, the last time I visited, I stayed for a month, and I just remember during that time picking up on things he would do when we were long distance that would bug me. And then, but like being in person, I'm like, oh, that's just how he is as a person. So it's like whatever. Like the thing that comes to mind is he like one thing he did that was annoying was like if we were to call or something, he would just forget or like do it way later because he just forgot, or yeah, he's just very forgetful. And then just seeing him day to day, he's just like forgetful all the time. So it's just not a personal thing. So it's just funny like seeing that transition of like things that would bug me when we were long distance, and then like when we're together, I'm like, oh, that's just who he is all the time. So it's not just to me, which is assuring.
Actually, on the topic of being forgetful, though, this is funny. Recently, like, I literally, like, I think the week before she came, I was like,
you forgot she was gonna be there.
No. I didn't forget that she was coming. I forgot to tell my roommate that she was coming. So she just kind of like showed up, and he was like,
oh yeah, like
I was like,
the day.
yeah, Brittany's here.
What?
For a long time. Oh my
gosh. But yeah, he took it well. Well, like the weekend,
he can't say no.
I know, go back.
That's true. But like the weekend before she got here, I was literally like, oh, remind me, I need to shower today.
What?
And I just like forgot
To shower?
And then she like got here, like, oh yeah, I was supposed to do that.
To shower?
I like went Monday to Wednesday
without shower.
No, the other day he went Sunday to Thursday this past week.
Wow.
Hey, I've showered more recently than you.
Oh.
Okay, I showered on Wednesday, but I'll shower today. Wait,
I don't think I like this relationship very much. I'm disturbed.
No, but yeah, I definitely forget things a lot. I like ask Brittany to remember things for me so much. It's really bad. Like, oh.
Well, thank you for joining us on this episode. To close, do you have any just relationship advice for our listeners?
Yeah, I think I think like maybe it happens that you like have a relationship that you never have conflict and everything's perfect all the time. But I think like expecting that is very unrealistic, at least in my experience. I think that me and Brittany keeping a successful relationship has ridden a lot on being able to compromise and communicate what each of us needs and wants. As well as just like in times where it has been hard, it's like evaluating like, does this like make me happy? And like I think when the answer is yes, then it's very, very easy for me to just kind of like, I might be a little bit like irritated or tired or like worn down, but it's easy just kind of like know that like this is worth it. And at the end of the day, I like believe that we'll get through this like hurdle as well. We've gone through other ones and we're still here. So yeah.
Man, that was really sweet. I was gonna say something funny. I was gonna say don't date a gamer.
True story. Don't date gamers.
If you
Gamers
like
suck.
If you like attention, don't date a gamer.
Oh my gosh.
All right. Well, thanks everyone for listening. Thanks Nathan for joining us. As always, you can follow us at Adulthood Pending Podcast on our socials, and you can also send linked in our description. Join us every other Monday for new episodes, and we can't wait to share our stories and are excited you're with us on our adulthood journey. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.